Single dad custodian transforms drunk CEO's life. What she revealed next morning was incredible. Jake breathed in the sharp scent of industrial cleaner while pushing his squeaky cart through the ritzy corporate building, feeling backward glances from the sharp-dressed executives who whisked by. They were celebrating high-stakes deals, their laughter echoing in the polished halls, a stark contrast to his heavy heart. At 38, he worried about every penny he earned, especially when it came to his teenage daughter, Lily. With each sweep of his mop across the slick marble floor, memories of his late wife surfaced. She had been the dreamer in the family, while he had taken on the role of stability, an anchor in an uncertain world. But now, Lily felt like a distant star, and Jake feared he was losing touch as he struggled to keep their heads above water. His thoughts spiraled. Would she make it through high school? Her grades had slipped, and she had taken to hanging out with the wrong crowd. The enormity of his responsibilities pressed down on his chest, filling him with unease. As he wiped down the last stretch of glass conference room tables, his mind raced. Would things ever get better? The world beyond seemed so vibrant, but he felt trapped in an endless cycle of labor. With the gala's festivities winding down, whom could he speak to about his fears, his dreams for Lily? Management, or rather those perched atop their high horses, often ignored him unless they needed something cleaned. It was why he felt sick to his stomach, pouring drinks and cleaning messes long after the party ended. When Claire stumbled into view, her mascara smeared, her tailored suit looking anything but pristine, he accidentally bumped into her. The champagne bubbled and frothed over her outfit, and Jake's usual instinct was to apologize, but something shifted in his mind. The chaos of the celebration faded, revealing a solitary figure beneath the layers of ambition and polished exterior. "Sorry," he mumbled, panic rising, but her laugh rang out, a blend of annoyance and amusement. "Great way to start a night," she replied, her words slurring together, and in that moment, an unlikely connection sparked. As he helped her regain her composure, he offered genuine kindness, something she was clearly not used to, and for the first time, he saw her vulnerability beneath the corporate facade. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue.
The next morning, with conflicting feelings swirling within him, Jake awoke to the reality of his life. In a half-drunken stupor, Claire had shared her fears too. She opened up about her struggles, the long hours, the empty nights, and a loneliness aggravated by her obsession with success. It mirrored his internal battle, intertwining their lives. Yet he hesitated. Was there potential here? Could this bond change his world? As tension grew between ambition and authenticity, he faced the truth. Their backgrounds created an invisible wall. Curiosity turned to dread when Claire was welcomed back into her high-powered realm, and whispers about her honesty with a simple custodian crept in. They were each left to navigate their increasingly complex realities, and Jake felt pulled in two directions. Could he impose more emotional weight onto her? Was he asking too much for someone of her stature? As he plunged deeper into his anxiety and she faced forthcoming judgment, the final resolve of their encounter loomed. Would Claire choose the path of privilege, or forge a new road based on dignity? The room fell silent as she stood, her heart racing, knowing the eyes of her colleagues were on her. Her promise to consider Jake's perspective hung in the balance, waiting for the decisive moment. Would she shatter her pristine image in a bid for authenticity, or would ambition drown the richer connections forming before her? Little did she realize, Jake's unwavering hope for Lily echoed through her decision, a call to the heart, even as the moment threatened to slip away. The sun streamed through the high-rise windows, filling Jake's modest apartment with harsh light, illuminating a world he found increasingly difficult to navigate. As he brewed a cup of coffee, the aroma did little to alleviate the unease swirling his gut. Lily hadn't returned the night before, and a knot of worry tightened as he envisioned her risking her future with friends he didn't trust. He glanced at the clock, then at the untouched schoolbooks lying on the table, remnants of her once dedicated study habits. Anguish clawed at him. Could he really make a difference in her life? The thought of confronting her about her choices loomed over him like a dark cloud, yet the instinct to protect overpowered his hesitation. Jake realized it was time to take control. Standing by silently was no longer an option. His thoughts shifted to Claire. Their conversation reverberated in his mind, the honesty she briefly wore like armor against a world of expectations. He had offered her a glimpse of humanity beneath the corporate mask, but now he wondered, what if she didn't want connection? What if she was more comfortable buried beneath her ambitions? How far would he be willing to go to build on their newfound bond? Decisions began to form within him as he prepared for work. He imagined the icy hallways of the corporate tower, my mop gliding over marble floors. Today wouldn't just be another boring shift.
Today, he'd use Claire's decision as motivation. As Jake arrived at the gleaming glass and steel building, he felt a strange energy buzzing beneath his skin. The air thickened with anticipation. It might have been just another day, but he resolved to confront the troubling patterns that had sunk his own life into shadows. With a renewed sense of purpose, he entered. Each swipe of his mop felt powerful, a rhythm echoing not just in the floors, but deep within him. Jake noticed the executives buzzing through the lobby, fixed on their phones, lost in whatever trivial concern occupied their lavish lives. Yet in the corner, Claire stood, conversing with several colleagues, her laughter echoing through the air, fresh yet haunting. The sight of her lifted Jake's spirits, but simultaneously ignited a fear deep in his chest. Where did he fit into this world? Caught between hope and doubt, he gathered his courage and approached, visions of his daughter intertwining with thoughts of Claire. Each step felt heavier yet more invigorating. As he drew near, her laughter faded, and their eyes locked. A moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken questions. He gestured slightly, caught between words and a yearning urge to understand her decision. "Hey, Claire," he started hesitantly. He wanted to feel her vulnerability again, to share his own fears. "Jake," she replied, her smile faltering as she stepped aside from her colleagues. "I didn't expect to see you here." Her tone, though light, hid deeper uncertainties. This was the confrontation that mattered, not merely about their past encounter, but about their individual battles. Could they come together and support each other, even if it meant scraping against the jagged edges of their respective worlds? Their conversation spiraled into delicate territory, both probing each other's truths. Jake hesitated but pressed forward. "I wanted to talk about yesterday, about opening up. It was refreshing." She paused, her brows slightly furrowed as she weighed his words. "You know that doesn't come easy for someone like me, right? But maybe it's necessary," he urged, sensing the walls she erected. "For both of us, we can't keep pretending everything is fine." Jake's heart raced, holding space for hope amidst the anxiety. Was their budding partnership destined to dispel the loneliness they both wrestled? Jake resolved to forge this connection. Whatever tenuous bond they share could be the cornerstone for the changes they sought in their lives. But as that moment hung, the world around them continued to rush by. A nearby executive exclaimed, drowning out their private exchange, reminding Jake of the limitations that pursued them, the expectations that choked authenticity. The challenge was no longer mere comfort. Would they dare shatter their respective facades? As Claire's gaze flickered toward the commotion, Jake wondered if the promise of their friendship was enough to sustain them. Could they challenge the norms of their lives and lift the burdens hiding beneath their surfaces? With the stakes raised, he needed to know. He had stepped out of his comfort zone, but would she? The moment of truth edged closer, the energy crackling as they stood there, two worlds colliding on the precipice of decision. Jake felt the air in the bustling lobby thicken with an unspoken tension that loomed larger than the high-rise itself. He focused on Claire, gauging her reaction to the chaos around them. The faint vibrations of the corporate grind pulsed like anxiety in his chest. But he wasn't there to shrink back this time. He was here to challenge the very currents that had long carried him downstream without direction. "Can we find a quieter place to talk?" he suggested, anxiety spilling over into urgency. Claire's gaze flickered, torn between the suffocating expectations of her colleagues and the lifeline of understanding he offered. "Okay," she replied, glancing over her shoulder, before leading him toward a small lounge tucked away from the glaring eyes of executives. The moment they stepped inside, the weight of the space shifted, enveloping them in a cocoon of possibility. "What do you really want to talk about?" Claire asked, crossing her arms defensively. Jake could sense her unease, a contrast to the warmth they had shared the day before. "I want to know you," he stated boldly, "not just the polished surface everyone sees. We're both dealing with something, aren't we? Just let's be real." Claire took a deep breath, uncertainty lingering like smoke. "Real is messy. You don't know what you're asking for." "No, but I want to. I think you want to as well." Jake leaned forward, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "It feels exhausting carrying everything alone, doesn't it?" A beat passed before Claire deflated slightly, her defenses lowering. "It's suffocating. I keep pushing forward, and yet," her voice faltered, betraying glimpses of vulnerability. "I can't shake the feeling that I'm losing myself." Jake recognized her struggle intimately. The frantic pace of life often masked the raw truth beneath.
Then don't do it alone. I'm figuring it out too. I may not have it all together, but I know how it feels to be lost, to avoid the things that cause pain. For the first time, he saw a hint of hope in her eyes, mingled with skepticism. You sound like you've been through a lot. Are you sure you're ready to delve into this with me? More than anything, Jake declared, inspired now by the audacity of vulnerability. I'm ready to break out of my own rut. If you're willing to take a step, maybe we can find our footing together. The silence that followed was profound. In that tiny room, barriers began to crack. Both stood on the precipice of something transformative, but fear still loomed, the specters of their respective realities haunting just beyond those walls. Jake bravely pushed further. Let's test the waters.
What's one thing you've done in your life that you regret, and what can we learn from it? Shock flickered across Claire's face, and he realized the boldness of his question might leave her retreating. Yet her expression softened, as if she had been waiting for someone to ask, someone who cared enough to get to the truth. We're not kids anymore. We can't just skate over these issues, she began slowly, weighing her words like heavy stones. I thought success meant playing it safe, but I lost friends and I lost my happiness along the way. Jake's heart raced at this admission. It felt electric, revealing layers he guessed were buried deep, just as his own were. We make choices, we pace ourselves to fit expectations, but those expectations can be chains. Let's break them together. The transformative power of shared experience rushed through him. They were teetering on the threshold of something real, something raw. Could they truly become partners in navigating their respective labyrinths, or were they destined to retreat into their own established patterns? As Claire opened her mouth as if to respond, there came a sudden interruption. A loud crash resounded from the lobby. Both of them jolted, their moment abruptly fractured. Jake's heart sank, the familiar urgency returning. Would this disruption sweep away the fragile connection they had begun to forge? What was that? Claire's eyes widened, the wall of vulnerability they had begun to construct suddenly feeling more fragile under the weight of uncertainty. Jake's mind raced. It's not over. Not yet. The stakes had transformed into a tangible urgency, providing him with an unexpected resolve. It was clear now that both he and Claire required more than a band-aid over their wounds. They had stumbled upon an authentic opportunity to inspire change, not just within themselves, but in each other. But as he took a step towards the door, limbs heavy with doubt yet ignited by potential, he knew there were dragons to face. Real change was lurking, waiting beyond that doorway as he prepared to venture back into the tumult. Would it shatter their moment, or provide the catalyst they needed to scale even higher in their journey toward authenticity? Jake hesitated for a moment, caught in the tension of the moment, the possibilities stretching before him like a chasm. Claire's expression shaped his resolve. She needed someone to anchor her, and maybe he could be that person. Yet the loud clatter that had shattered their delicate exchange echoed back to him, a stark reminder of the real world they would soon have to re-enter. "Are you okay?" he asked, torn between his instinct to protect her and the urge to get to the bottom of the chaos outside. I will be," she replied, but the tremor in her voice betrayed an undercurrent of fear that hadn't existed moments before.
In that lounge, they had unspooled a glimpse of truth, but now it felt like they were about to be sucked back into the vortex of their separate lives. Before he could push through the door, Claire placed a hand on his arm, her fingers warm against his skin. "Wait, you really mean it, don't you? About wanting to help?" "More than anything." There was a gravity in his words, but he could feel the seriousness of that commitment pulling at him. What would it entail? What skeletons did he need to unearth from his own past to genuinely guide her? Jake took a deep breath, pushing past both their fears. "Let's handle whatever's going on out there, and then come back to this. We can't let that chaos dictate our conversation." With a nod, Claire's grip on him eased. Together, they stepped back into the lobby, the bustling atmosphere swallowing them whole. The commotion had calmed slightly. Whispers and hurried footsteps replaced the initial crash. He spotted a small crowd gathering around the receptionist desk, curiosity etched on their faces. "Stay close," he murmured, guiding Claire to the edge of the fray. The sight that unfolded confirmed their worst anticipations. A high-ranking executive from a rival company, known for her hard-drinking reputation, lay sprawled on the floor, barely conscious, her briefcase tipped over and the contents scattered like memories on maid. "Someone call security," a voice yelled, but Jake's focus remained on Claire. Her brow wrinkled with concern, and a wave of empathy washed over him. Here they stood, grappling with their own realities, and now they were faced with someone on the brink of losing it all. "This isn't just about us, is it?" Claire murmured, her previously defensive posture wavering. "What if we could actually help her?" Maybe this is part of what we're meant to do, Jake suggested, the fire within igniting again. The moment felt surreal, yet urgent. Claire was grappling with her own fears, and yet presented with the choice to step up, dismantling the cobwebs of expectation in favor of potency. It was raw and beautiful, the opportunity to influence something bigger than themselves. With that realization, he reached for Claire's hand, intertwining their fingers instinctively. You want to know if it feels suffocating? Try reaching out. We can make a difference, however small. Claire looked up at him, surprise and resolution shaking through her. What do we do? Let's make sure she gets help, Jake replied firmly. And afterward, we talk. No more evading the real stuff. Not for either of us. With a glance exchanged that acknowledged the unspoken promise between them, they moved towards the fallen executive. Thoughts collided in Jake's mind, various pathways unfurling at their feet. This was a chance to challenge himself, to confront the layers of resentment he had often buried deep. And in that moment of becoming, he could see both their futures shifting.
But just as they approached, an ominous hush enveloped the crowd, an electric crackle of tension signaling that this incident was much more than a drunken mishap. There were eyes on them, and not all of them were sympathetic. The stakes were rising, and with them, the adrenaline surged. As Claire leaned in to assess the situation, Jake felt a familiar uncertainty creeping back. What if their attempt to intervene spiraled into something they weren't prepared to handle? In that chaos, with lives intertwined and secrets pressed against the surface, Jake realized they were poised at a crossroads, not just for the fallen woman, but for their own paths. But as they reached for the executive, he couldn't shake the feeling that revelations awaited them, a confrontation of deeper truths shrouded in the shadows of the office lobby. Would they clasp hands in unity against the tide, or watch as fate pulled them apart? Jake and Claire reached the fallen executive, the crowd parting slightly as they moved with purpose. Adrenaline rushed through him, sharp enough to drown out the soft murmurs and anxious breaths surrounding them. Claire knelt beside the executive, her medical training kicking in. On some level, it felt surreal that here they were, two people in a moment teetering between obligation and opportunity, compelled to take action. "Can you hear me?" Claire asked gently, her voice wrapped in concern. Jake remained close by, scanning the onlookers. Those eyes bore judgment and suspicion, as if they were awaiting some spectacle. Could he stand tall in such scrutiny? The self-doubt crept in, whispering that perhaps he was too inexperienced for this, too accustomed to the background rather than the foreground. A quick glance at Claire reminded him that she was moving with clear intent, not slowed by uncertainty. What empowered her? He realized with a jolt he was at a stage in his life that demanded the same courage. He had taught his daughter about resilience, about facing challenges head-on. Now was the moment to embody those lessons for himself. "Stay with us," Claire urged, lightly shaking the executive's shoulder. "Help is coming." Jake admired her resolve. It was both humbling and inspiring. Too long had he dwelled in his shadows. Too long had he feared stepping into the light. What would it take for him to adopt the assurance Claire so effortlessly wielded? His thoughts raced, but he instinctively knelt beside her. "Is there a first aid kit nearby?" he asked, his voice steadier than he felt. He glanced around, spotting the reception area. A sense of urgency mingled with fragility punctuated the scene. "I'll get it," he said, forcing himself to break away from Claire's side, an uncharacteristic move for someone who would usually prefer shelter and safety. He pushed through the crowd, making his way toward the desk. The receptionist looked startled but called for someone to retrieve the kit. As he waited, he fought against the impulse to retreat. Everyone around him was expecting action, not hesitation. The executive stirred faintly, groaning, her eyes fluttering open. "Get her help," a voice called, perhaps out of sympathy or maybe fear. Jake felt the weight of all those expectations settle on his shoulders. Would he become the person they needed, or would he falter? While the receptionist fumbled for the kit, Jake reflected on Claire, who leaned down, giving her all to someone she barely knew. This desire to help, it pulsated through Jake, challenging the narratives he'd clung to for far too long. Maybe aiding others was the key to unraveling his own knots, to understanding his frustrations and unearthing the chains of resentment that had tethered him. What if, in this attempt to engage with something greater than himself, he discovered hidden depths? Without having anticipated this moment, he felt an awakening, a jolt of purpose igniting within him. Finally, the first aid kit arrived, and Jake rushed back to Claire. But just as he reached her, a powerful presence shifted through the crowd. Everything snapped back into focus. A tall figure, the executive's colleague, pushed through, demanding to know what had happened. Jake's breath hitched. Would his efforts to help be met with resistance? Would their gestures of goodwill be undermined by corporate rivalry? As Claire continued to check vitals, the colleague's accusatory tone echoed in Jake's mind, and he felt a choice crystallize, whether to defend their actions or succumb to the pressure of someone who might challenge his place in this moment. With the collective uncertainty buzzing around him, Jake knew that standing firm would be his next test, not just for the fallen executive, but for the man he aspired to become. The crossroads had arrived. Would he stand up or back down? Just before he could voice his intentions, Claire caught his eye, silently pleading for his support. In the midst of swirling chaos and heightened emotions, Jake realized that this was not only about them collectively facing the crisis, but also confronting their individual doubts. What would he say to the colleague? What newfound resolve could he cultivate in that decisive moment? As tension thickened, he braced himself, prepared to discover not only the extent of his commitment, but also the transformative strength it could bring. Jake felt the tension ripple through the crowd, palpable as he met Claire's pleading gaze. It was a moment suspended in time, where he teetered on the edge of courage and cowardice. The colleague, towering with authority and indignation, shifted closer, eyes narrowing in scrutiny. "What are you doing standing there?" the colleague barked, his voice slicing through the low hum of concern. "Get her help." The command hung heavy in the air, an unwelcome spotlight directing attention squarely on Jake. Staring back, he felt small, cornered, battling the deep-set habit of retreating into the shadows.
Every instinct told him to shrink away, to let Claire and the professionals handle it. But as Claire placed her hands on the executive's chest, her determined movements ignited something inside him, a flicker of defiance against the doubts that had molded his life for too long. With a resolve he hadn't anticipated, Jake stepped forward. "We're helping her," he stated evenly, surprised by the conviction in his voice. It was more than a reassurance to the colleague. It was a declaration to himself. He was in this moment, truly engaged and willing to confront his fears. The colleague's eyebrows shot up at Jake's unexpected bravado, but Jake didn't falter. "We're doing all we can. You can either help us or step back." The murmurs from the onlookers intensified, a blend of surprise and approval radiating from the crowd. This was no longer about a fallen executive. It was about reclaiming his own identity, stepping into his role, not just as a passerby, but an active participant. Jake did not know exactly how he'd found his voice, but Claire's unwavering focus made him realize that he too had a responsibility. The CEO needed assistance, and he couldn't let fear strip him of the chance to contribute. "Check her breath," he instructed, his body moving mechanically yet assuredly as he rifled through the first aid kit to look for anything that could stabilize the situation. A bandage, a gauze, anything that might stem the tide of uncertainty gushing through him. Inside, the inferno of anxiety turned into a firm simmer as he started handing supplies to Claire, meticulously following her lead. Every second he spent engaged felt like a small rebellion against a lifetime of self-doubt. Claire looked back briefly, her expression urging him on, and in that shared glance, he found purpose, a sense of belonging, even amidst chaos. "Can you keep talking to her?" Claire asked, her voice steady, pulling him back to the moment. "It might help." "Yes, of course." Jake nodded, leaning closer to the executive as he maintained eye contact. "You're going to be fine. Help is here," he assured, partly convincing himself as much as her. With each word, the crowd faded into the background, and he realized his perceptions were shifting. For the first time, he felt like a father figure, not just at home, but here too, a protector, a nurturer trying to bring comfort in uncertainty. Abruptly, the tension in the air shifted again, the colleague stepping back slightly as he began to absorb Jake's poise. Was there a note of respect creeping into that condescending tone? The realization struck Jake. Perhaps this moment would tilt the power dynamic around him, challenge those ingrained perceptions of who he was. But just as the thoughts accelerated, the executive's eyes focused, searching. "What happened?" Her faint voice drew attention, crystallizing fear into clarity. It hit Jake that this was the crux of it.
In moments of crisis, something sacred emerged, a human connection that transcended hierarchy. Suddenly, a siren wailed in the distance, breaking through the intensity of the scene. Help was on its way. But as the commotion continued around him, Jake sensed a profound shift within himself. He could harness this moment to refine who he was becoming, yet his next choices would determine it. Would he fully embrace this newfound confidence and step into a more defined role, or would he revert to his old self? As the emergency responders arrived, Jake stood grounded, feeling the winds of change swirl around him. The fiery question loomed in his mind. How would this moment transform the path ahead? Just when he thought clarity was within reach, the colleague stepped forward again. "You've done well, but you don't have the authority here," he said, a warning wrapped in admiration. Jake's heart sank slightly. What authority was he truly claiming? The tension between them thickened once more. The pivotal choice was upon him. Would he continue to fight for his place in this company and in life, or would he step back? As they awaited the emergency team, he braced himself for the weight of this decision. The moment of truth unfurled, but could he welcome the challenge, knowing it was his time to redefine his own narrative? The crowd began to dissipate as the emergency responders took over, a mix of urgent shouts and commands swirling in the air. Jake watched, an unsettling mix of pride and doubt gnawing at the edges of his thoughts. He had stepped up, but what did it all truly mean? The echo of the colleague's assertion reverberated through his mind. "You don't have the authority here." Declaring that he had helped was one thing, but claiming authority in a corporate jungle felt utterly different. As the responders deftly assessed the situation, Jake's eyes drifted over to Claire. She was speaking with an energy and confidence that seemed all too natural to her. The dynamic between them shifted, and Jake realized that he had not only found his voice, but had unearthed a partnership. This wasn't merely about righting a wrong, it was about transformation, both for the executive and for himself. Once the chaos of the emergency subsided, curiosity intertwined with anxiety as he found himself approaching Claire. "Hey," he began, struggling to overcome the uncertainty. "What do you think just happened back there?" Claire looked thoughtfully at him. "You took a stand when it counted, Jake. That's not something many people would have done." Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of admiration and encouragement, but the weight of her words pressed down on him. "What's next for you?" she prompted gently. "Next," Jake echoed, grappling with her question while the residual adrenaline coursed through him. He was used to drifting toward the sidelines, allowing others to seize the limelight. For the first time, he realized he could choose differently.
"I honestly don't know. This feels different." "Different is good," she replied, her gaze unwavering. "You have this in you. Maybe it's time to explore how capable you really are." "Exploring implies I have somewhere to go," he responded, voice steadier than he anticipated. "But I don't know how to transition from this moment into daily life." Deep down, he feared this newfound confidence might just be a fleeting mirage. Would it fade in the less chaotic moments of office life? The moment hung heavily between them. "What would it look like if you carried this with you?" Claire mused. "What if you forged your path with this sense of purpose? Picture it, Jake." He imagined returning to the everyday grind, where his instincts to retreat lurked like shadows. But what if instead he persisted in stepping forward? The prospect trembled inside him, discomfort so potent it felt like electricity. Just then, the colleague who had earlier questioned him barged through the crowd again, now carrying a sense of urgency that blended with respect. "Jake," he called out, his tone softer. "We need to talk." Jake's initial defensive reaction flared, but he quelled it almost instantaneously. He had nothing to prove to anyone. Instead, curiosity tinged with caution glimmered. What would this confrontation yield? Would the colleague invite him to embrace a larger role, or simply reiterate the limits? "Let's move to my office," the colleague instructed, gesturing for Jake to follow. As they walked through the winding corridors, a collage of uncertainty and anticipation played across Jake's mind. He felt the pressure of uncharted territory closing in around him. Was it truly possible to redefine his position? To confront his fears and claim authority over his narrative, even when faced with the various walls set up by those above him? Jake stepped into the colleague's office, a huge desk dominating the space, a stark reminder of the corporate hierarchy he had long accepted as immutable. It suddenly felt different, as if the boundaries could shift. The conversation could either crumble his emerging confidence or fortify it. Jake squared his shoulders, steeling himself for the next chapter of a story that was still unwritten. What awaited him? Would he have the courage to stand firm in a world still cloaked in rank and authority? As the door clicked shut behind him, the tension hung thick in the air. The moment was ripe with potential, but would he seize it? Jake took a deep breath as he settled into the chair opposite his colleague, a heavy silence draping over them. The office was an emblem of power, stacks of paperwork littering the desk, framed accolades plastered on the walls, each detail a reminder of the rigid hierarchy that presumably dictated who deserved to be heard and who did not. "Thank you for stepping up back there," his colleague began, his voice unexpectedly sincere. It was easy to see things spiral out of control, but you managed to keep calm.
He paused, and Jake could almost feel the weight of expectation pressing against him. Honestly, I just did what needed to be done, Jake replied, attempting to downplay his actions. The unease fluttering in his stomach betrayed him, revealing the sting of self-doubt that still lingered beneath his bravado. He had acted instinctively, and that instinct was something he had long pushed aside. No, Jake, what you did was more than just drinking from the well of instinct. The colleague leaned in slightly. You showed a potential that I think you've been suppressing. In our world, we often confuse authority with hierarchy. Just because someone sits behind a desk like this, he gestured around, doesn't make them a leader. Leadership is about courage, vision, and influence, and you showcased all of that. Jake's mind raced. Leadership wasn't a word that ever resonated with him. He felt like a bystander in his own life, always trapped in the periphery while more assertive players maneuvered the board. But tonight had cracked open a door to a version of himself he hadn't truly acknowledged, the one who could stand firm and shepherd others in times of crisis. What do you mean by potential? Jake asked, testing the waters of this unexpected dialogue. Was this about an impending promotion? Would he be thrust into the limelight with expectations tied to titles, or was it something deeper? I've seen how you interact with the team and how you manage to connect with them. You have a way of making people feel heard, his colleague said thoughtfully. The compliment was both encouraging and disorienting. Could it be that he had overlooked an integral aspect of himself? I believe you have the capacity to influence our operations in a significant way, but you'll have to decide if you're ready to step into that role. The prospect was thrilling yet terrifying. Could he really pivot from his history of self-doubt to embrace a leadership position? His mind churned with questions, and the tremors of potential responsibility twisted his stomach. What would he have to sacrifice to grow? Would this newfound authority lead to even more scrutiny and judgment, or could it solidify his place within the structure? What if I fail? He blurted out, overtaken by honesty. What if I step up and it falls flat? I've been playing it safe for so long. You have stood up under pressure already, Jake. That tells me you're capable of handling a lot more than you give yourself credit for. Fear is part of the process. What defines you is how you address that fear and decide to move forward. The words resonated deeply. He had yo-yoed between hope and trepidation. Now was a moment of reckoning. What's the first step? He asked, his demeanor shifting from anxious to resolute. Identify a project, develop a strategy, and lead your team through it. Let that vision manifest into something tangible.
I'll be in your corner, his colleague assured him, the encouragement setting a fire beneath Jake's resolve. As they exchanged ideas, a new clarity enveloped Jake. He felt like a sprout breaking through the soil, yearning for the sun while still fearful of what lay above. This was not just about proving himself to others, it was about discovering who he was becoming. Yet, as they discussed potential strategies, a nagging doubt gnawed at him. What if something shattered this fragile confidence before it fully took root? As he prepared to step into a new role of leadership, Jake suddenly questioned if he could genuinely own it, or if it would just be a facade that shattered under pressure, revealing the insecurities within. Stepping back into the realm of authority loomed ahead, sparking excitement along with a tremendous sense of vulnerability. The transformation had begun, but confidence was precarious. As they wrapped up the meeting, Jake felt his adrenaline spiking yet again, this time not from uncertainty, but possibility. But would he be able to not only define his new role, but also protect it from the shadows of his past? With his mind racing and a tentative plan taking form, he walked out of the office, determination burning in his chest. The next step was crucial, but could he truly see it through amidst the onslaught of self-doubt that still lurked in his shadow? Jake rose early the next morning, anticipation sparking a sense of urgency within him. The crisp morning air washed over him as he stepped outside, invigorating the doubts that had rooted themselves deep overnight. Today wouldn't merely be about affirming his presence, it would be about establishing his vision. The inner struggle between confidence and self-doubt had transitioned from a whisper to a raging dialogue. He arrived at the office ahead of his colleagues, the stillness of the space igniting thoughts of strategy. Jake sat at his desk, surrounded by empty notepads and loose papers, and began sketching out ideas for the project he had identified, a team initiative aimed at enhancing collaboration across departments. A step forward, yet so fraught with risk. He couldn't shake the memory of their last chaotic meeting, the whirlwind of opinions and confusion that had overtaken them. Hours melted away as he jotted down ideas, but every stroke of the pen was met with the encroachment of doubt. What if his plans fell apart? How could he transform these nascent ideas into something that would not only inspire but galvanize action? Each question became heavier, dragging him back to feelings of inadequacy. Just then, the soft hum of footsteps approached, breaking his concentration. It was Sarah, one of his teammates. She smiled, her arrival curious and encouraging. "What are you working on so early?" she asked. Jake looked up, hesitating. He could sense her genuine interest, yet sharing his vision felt like exposing a raw nerve. What if it wasn't well received?
Just brainstorming some strategies for improving collaboration, he managed. Sounds great. Have you thought about involving the team in brainstorming sessions? She suggested, her enthusiasm contagious. It might spark creativity. People tend to respond when they feel their voice matters. As she spoke, a light flickered in Jake's mind. This partnership approach could reshape not just his idea, but his entire leadership style. Perhaps his greatest strength wasn't the direction he could provide alone, but the inclusivity he could foster. Could this be the bridge to overcoming the shadows of self-doubt? That's a good point. I think I'll draft an email and invite everyone to an initial brainstorming session, he said, the confidence in his voice surprising him. That sounds perfect. We all have different perspectives to bring, Sarah replied, beaming. Her belief in the team and its potential stoked the embers of courage within him. Encouraged, Jake began crafting the message, feeling adrenaline racing through him. Yet, as he finalized the email, hesitation bloomed in his mind again. What if this gathering backfired? What if the same chaos unfolded as the last time? Could he keep control of the direction they would take? It was one thing to inspire a team, it was another to guide them effectively without losing the reins entirely. Fingers hovering over the keyboard, he wrestled with the fear of failure once more. What if I'm not cut out for this? He whispered to himself, the doubt echoing back. What could transcend his prior fears? It needed to be more than just a project. It had to symbolize his growth and resilience, something he had to confront deep within. With a deep breath, Jake hit send. A rush of relief washed over him, tinged with an undercurrent of anxiety. He was committed now, not just to himself, but to his colleagues. He'd inspired them to contribute, yet he had invited potential chaos into the fold. As he stepped away from his desk, a mixture of apprehension and exhilaration filled the space. Each heartbeat propelled him forward, but an ominous realization loomed. Could he genuinely handle a team? The weight of leadership now felt heavier than before, its implications stretching beyond workplace dynamics into his own psyche. The day crept onward, comments echoing around him as colleagues filtered in. Each greeting held the weight of expectation, and with every friendly face, Jake could feel the pressing question of authority linger in the air. He was caught in the undeniable truth that he wouldn't just be guiding a project, he would also be guiding himself. As he prepared for the brainstorming session, tension hung palpable in his chest. Would he control the room, or would doubt take the reins? This was the moment he had been building toward. And there, at the threshold of possibility, he wondered, could he truly shift the dynamic, or would today reveal the cracks in his facade that he had so carefully tried to mask? With the clock ticking down, Jake found himself poised at the brink of a new beginning. But as the energy in the room swelled with anticipation, he was suddenly unprepared for what awaited him within his own turbulent mind. With the door to the conference room swinging open, Jake stepped forward. Could this be the beginning of his transformation, or would he crumble under the weight of his own aspirations? The answer awaited just beyond the threshold. Jake entered the conference room, heart pounding louder than ever. His colleagues were already settling into their chairs, exchanging curious glances. Every expectation they placed on him felt heavier, but this time, instead of retreating behind his usual facade, he squared his shoulders and found his voice. "Thank you all for coming," he began, striving to keep his tone steady. "I want us to collaborate on a new initiative aimed at improving how we work together across departments." The words flowed, sparked by the very acknowledgement of vulnerability he had honed over the past few days. With each sentence, his confidence solidified like concrete. He outlined his vision, detailing the importance of their collective input. Instead of simply giving orders, he invited their thoughts, essentially flipping the dynamic on its head. The room stirred with interest as they exchanged ideas, and for the first time he noticed their expressions shifting from skeptical to engaged. "Let's brainstorm some key issues we face daily," he encouraged, keenly aware of the momentum building in the atmosphere. It was not just a meeting, it had transformed into a platform where everyone's voice carried weight. As ideas began flowing, he felt his insecurities waned, overshadowed by the collaborative energy igniting the room. Sarah spoke up, suggesting, "How about organizing interdepartmental workshops? It could facilitate better understanding." "Great idea," Jake responded, heart racing with genuine excitement. "It fosters trust and encourages cross-departmental relationships." With each exchange, he was solidifying his place as a leader, not just in title, but in spirit. He could sense their collective enthusiasm heightening. They were propelling forward together, and he was at the helm, finally leading with purpose rather than fear. As ideas blossomed, Jake navigated the dialogue, ensuring that everyone engaged. Each time he felt uncertain, however, a newfound determination grounded him. He remembered how Claire had urged him to seek his place. Her encouragement echoed like a battle cry through the chaos of his doubt. By the end of the session, a palpable excitement lingered in the air. They had outlined goals, assigned tasks, and even set a timeline.
As they wrapped up, Jake's pulse thrummed with satisfaction. They were not just colleagues now. They had transformed into a team united by a common mission. "Thank you all," he said, grinning widely. "This is only the beginning. Let's keep this momentum going."
I believe in each and every one of you. The sincerity poured from him, a testament to the transformation he had undergone since stepping into that conference room. After they filtered out, Jake lingered for a moment alone, absorbing what had just happened. He felt solid in ways he had never imagined. He had woven together the threads of his personal journey with this collective experience. Outside, Claire appeared, her laughter carrying through the hallway like a melody. "You did it! That was incredible!" she beamed, wrapping him in a quick embrace. "It felt right," he admitted, still processing what had transpired. "I think I finally found my footing. I stepped up." "And you didn't just step up for yourself, but for everyone around you. I'm proud of you, Jake." Her validation resonated deeply within him. He embraced it. "No more hiding," Jake announced, surprising even himself with the determination in his voice. "I know who I am, who I want to be, someone others can rely on." Claire nodded, her expression softly proud, as he confirmed his shifted perspective. He had conquered the trepidation that haunted him, embracing the daunting path toward becoming a leader in every sense. As the weight of uncertainty melted away, Jake turned to exit the building, feeling lighter than he had in years. His heart swelled with gratitude for the journey thus far. He had not just taken professional strides, but personal ones too. Back home, he found Lily working on her homework. Her brow was furrowed in concentration. "How was work today?" she asked without looking up. "Life-changing," he replied, a smile spreading across his face. The recognition of growth flickered between them, a testament to both their evolving lives. Jake knew things would still come with challenges, but now, equipped with newfound confidence and clarity, he was ready to face whatever lay ahead. In this pivotal moment, he acknowledged that transformation was never a solo journey. It was crafted through connection, vulnerability, and most importantly, an innate belief in oneself. There was no more questioning whether he belonged. Jake was here, standing firm on the foundation he had built through hardship, hope, and authentic connections. And as the sun set that evening, illuminating the sky in hues of gold, he felt ready for the next chapter of his life, a life fully lived, not merely endured. Now, the call to action resonates within you. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly matters. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and be part of our community. You need to subscribe now, and don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.